yesterday we talked about stereotypes, okay? And so we talked about stereotypes because in Stone Fox, there's stereotypes against the character named Stone Fox. So today we're going to continue talking about reading because it's reading. But today we're going to talk about tackling complex texts takes grit. So I'm going to explain what grit means and how we tackle complex texts. All right, so as we enter the last bend in this unit, I look at you and see a class of readers who know how to set themselves up for success. Camara. You can pick a good reading spot and a good book. You can talk about books and talk about them as well. Here's the thing though, sometimes reading is a breeze. It's a feel-good, get lost in the story experience. But, and you know this already, sometimes reading is hard. Becoming a skilled reader takes work, and it takes the will to tackle hard texts. All right, so do you guys remember when we talked about how marathon runners get ready for the big race by eating pasta and drinking lots of fluids? Well, pasta and water alone aren't going to cut it. You can eat mountains of pasta and still not be able to run a marathon. To be a marathon runner, you also need to work at running. Raylan. You need to run until you get blisters and your legs ache. You need to push yourself beyond anything you thought was possible. And the truth is, for you to be a great reader, the same is true. When people study kids who become amazing learners, kids who do really well in school and in life, they find that those kids have one characteristic that makes them different from others. And that characteristic is grit. Grit is a willingness to persevere even when things are tough. What does that mean to persevere? That's kind of a big word. Does anyone know what that means to persevere? Anyone have an idea? Natalie, you have an idea or are you just, okay. So persevere just means you're not going to give up and you're going to push through until you succeed. Okay. Are you all thinking what I'm thinking? We know someone with a lot of grit. A kid your age we've been reading about. A kid named, does anyone know what I'm thinking about? Named Little Willie. All right, so today I want to teach you that it often takes grit to be a good reader. Each person in this Zoom right now can become a great reader, but going from good to great as a reader takes working with resolve or working with grit. Okay, so I'd like for you to be researchers and study a reader I know. Her name is Lucky. See if you think Lucky is going to have a good year as a reader. All right, so if I'm Lucky and I'm picking up a book and I just say, this is a dumb book, is that a good choice to make when I'm trying to read? Let me see your thumbs. What do you think? Awesome. I love seeing your thumbs. All right, what if I'm flipping through the book and I say, oh, this book is too hard and it's dumb too. I hate reading. I'm a bad reader. My brother was a bad reader. My mom was a bad reader. I was born that way. So thumbs up if you think what I just said as Lucky is set to have a good year as a reader. So do you think what I said makes my year as a reader good? Do you think I've set myself up for success? Awesome. I love seeing the thumbs. I'm not seeing about 5 people's thumbs, which tells me they're not listening to me. So I don't see Camara or Destiny's thumb, which means they're not listening to me. All right, so no, what I just said about this book is too hard and it's dumb too. I hate reading. I'm a bad reader. My brother was a bad reader. My mom was a bad reader. I was born this way. That's not going to set me up for a good year of reading. I've already told myself I can't do it. Okay, so if you tell yourself you can't do it, then you've already given up before you tried. Vaughn, I need you to make sure you're facing the camera. Thank you. All right, so I feel kind of sad if someone says that about reading, because I also want to shake them and say, get some grit. Come on, we can read. Because if Lucky were to dig inside herself and find some determination, she could turn things around. A researcher named Angela Duckworth created something called the grit scale. Destiny, I can tell you're not listening to me. So let me go ahead and pull up the grit scale. I'll pull that up and show it to you. Okay, so this is the grit scale. All right, there's 10 different things in the scale. All right. So I'll go ahead and read the 10 things. So the first one, I read almost every day in school and home. I read at least a day in school and the same at home. I read a lot more than what I am required to. I fill out my log truthfully when I read. I also study my reading. 5, my log shows that I read for 30 minutes or more every night. 6, I finish books that I start. 7, I try books that aren't my usual style. I try books in a different genre that at first seem like I might not like them. I don't give up on them too quickly. 8, sometimes I read texts that are a little hard for me. When they seem hard, I work harder and try to make sense of them. 9, I have goals for my reading, like I try to read my texts so the voice in my mind is smoother, or envision or predict in better ways, or to read harder books or different kinds of books. And the last one, 10, is I think about my goals before I start reading and keep them in mind as I read. So this is the reading grit test. So when you take the test, you are going to look at these 10 things and say whether it's yes or no. Okay, and so for all the yeses, you're going to count up. All right, so I'm going to count up my yeses. And then once I count up my yeses, I'm going to look at the grit scale. So I'm going to go back and say, is it very much like me? And then give that question 2 points. Is it somewhat like me? Give that question 1 point. Or not at all like me? And that's 0 points. And then I'm going to add them all up. So then after you add up all your points, you find the total score, and then you're going to look at this chart and say 17 to 20 points, you've got maximum grit. All right, 13 to 16 points, you've got a lot of grit. 9 to 12 points, you've got some grit. 5 to 8 points, you have a little grit. And 0 to 4 points, you need some grit. Okay? So if I look back at this grit scale, I'm going to just read this one. I try books that aren't my usual style. I try books in a different genre that at first seem like I might not like them, but I don't give up on them too quickly. So for me personally, I'll probably give myself a 1 on that question. All right, so after I'm done with all of this, I'm going to go down and, Camara, I can tell you're not listening to me. And I'm going to add my score up, okay?